Okay, the one thing we haven't looked at yet is what happens when you have coefficients. So we don't add our coefficients together. We're multiplying them because this is 5x to the 7th times 5x to the 7th. And 5 times 5 is 25. So we're still squaring the coefficients. And then we can multiply the 7 times 2. Don't do 2 times 5 and don't do 5 plus 5. Okay, we're squaring that coefficient. Big difference. Okay, so x to the 7th would be x to the 14th. Okay, so once again, when you have a coefficient, you have to raise it to the power of the exponent that's outside the parentheses. And 2 to the 5th power is what we'd end up with there. And then we're going to end up with x squared to the 5th power and y to the 5th power. Now we said up here that when I've got a power to a power, then I can multiply those together. So that's going to give me x to the 10th. That y to the 5th is just being raised to the 1st power because there isn't one up there. But what's 2 to the 5th? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Okay? Does that make sense? Hopefully so. Let's talk about what happens when your coefficient is a fraction. Then we're going to have 1/2 to the 3rd, a to the 3rd, to the 3rd, b to the 4th to the 3rd, c to the 5th to the 3rd. It's kind of messy, doesn't it? Yeah. Maybe you don't want to write it out this way. But this just means I'm going to take each of my numerator and my denominator and raise them to that power. So 1 to the 3rd power is just 1. 2 to the 3rd is 8. Now, we said that our rule is that when I've got a power to a power, I multiply those together. So this will be a to the 9th, b to the 12th, and c to the 15th. Okay? Let's take a look at one of the mixed practice. And we'll save the applications for tomorrow. I've got some geometry applications where you guys will use exponents, but we'll save that for tomorrow. It'll be a little shorter tomorrow maybe. Okay, so we'll take a look at number 10. Let's get that. So here I've got a lot of stuff going on. First thing we're going to do is simplify this down. Because here we've got x times y squared. Okay, but I want to know how many x's do I actually have over here. So if I've got x to the 3rd to the 3rd, that's like x to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, x to the 3rd. So I actually have 9 x's there. Remember, we can multiply these together. And we're going to have the same thing when it comes to the y's. So now how many factors of x do we have? If we've got 9 of them here and 1 here, we have 10 factors of x. Hi, Normie. My daughter's cat is visiting. Then if I've got y to the 9th and y to the 2nd, how many factors of y do we have? We have 11. Okay? We need to talk about negatives. Okay, don't let the negatives flub you up. So here if I've got a to the 3rd, let's expand this one. That is my mom's dog, Charlie, and we're going to remove his voice box here pretty soon. Okay, so here we've got a negative a squared times a negative a squared times a negative a squared times a negative a squared. Does everybody see where that came from? Because I've got this 4 times. And then I've got b times b times b times b. Now look at what happens with the negatives. This negative times negative cancel each other out. This negative times this negative cancel each other out. You'll kind of learn that when you have even numbers of negative factors, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't even been moving that over. I've been concentrating on listening to Charlie. Okay, here we go. Does everybody see that? So a to the third is a times a times a. And then I've got negative a squared 4 times. My negatives canceled each other out. And then I've got b 4 times. So now what do we have? We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 factors of a. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 factors of b. So take a look at that. Sorry about the mistake in videoing, but I'm not going to start this one over. I'm going to get it sent out to you along with an assignment, and I'll have more instructions in Teams. See you guys in a bit. Bye.